Hello, IEW, fun and fascinating. Welcome back for our next week of writing, and not only writing, but writing with pictures. I hope you guys have had fun with this. I just have always loved this unit because it totally opens up the gate for creativity and silliness or drama or adventure. And that's just so much fun. So, if you have any questions, as always, feel free to send them my way. But this week, we're going to continue on in our second lesson on writing from pictures. So I want you to grab your workbooks, pause the video if you need to, and turn to page 113. And in this, at the top of the page, you'll see Lesson 16, the fishing trip. Our goal is to learn a new dress up the because clause, and we're going to go over that in just a few minutes. But first I want to do the review real quick. If you will, look with me under the review where it says, what's wrong with the following sentences? And number one, you'll read, Dad said, we are going fishing today. There's three things that I want to point out to you. See what three things you can find in this real quick. Pause the video if you need to and point out to yourself the three things. Thing number one, there should be a comma after said. Dad said, comma, when you go into a quotation and you've got the intro in the beginning of who is making the statement, you have to follow who makes the statement with a comma, space, and then open your quote. So you need a comma after said. Also, like all sentences, this quote is, we are going fishing today, which is a complete thought. It's a complete sentence. So we need to capitalize the W in we. So we need to make a note of that. And then lastly, the period should be on the inside of the quotation mark. Whatever, if you end the sentence of the quote with the end of the quote, like this one does here, then your punctuation needs to be on the inside of your quote there. Number two, will we catch the famous big fish? Asked Johnny. Will we catch the famous big fish? Asked Johnny. So there are two items that I wanted to point out in this one, and I want you to pause the video if you need more time to look for it yourself. All right, number one thing that needs to change in number two. Will we catch the famous big fish? Is the quote in total? It's a sentence. What kind of sentence is it? It's a question. So the question mark for this question should be inside that quote right after the word fish. Secondly, will we catch the famous big fish? Question mark. Asked Johnny. There's a period after asked Johnny. Asked Johnny is not a question. Even though Johnny's asking it, the question is in the quote. So after asked Johnny, we need a period. So just a reminder about punctuation with your quotes and a couple of things to remember there. All right, if you would turn with me to page 113. And here we have three interesting pictures. I want you to think to yourself in each picture, what is going on exactly with what you see? Not adding in all the details yet, but just according to that picture. And then you're going to add in all your embellishments and details. I want to remind you that you can turn back to page 108. Go ahead, turn back to page 108, pause the video if you need more time, and you will see where it says you can describe the characters. You can say what they're doing, what they're thinking, or why. How are they feeling and why? Where is the event happening? describing the scene. What would you see, hear, or even feel in the picture? Why is the event in the picture happening? What is happening around the scene, maybe, that might not be in the picture even? And lastly, what will happen after the event in the picture? So all of those questions on page 108 will be immensely helpful in you brainstorming over on page 114 what it is that you actually want to fill in the blanks for, and how you want to tell your story. So we've got that fantastic picture of an older person and a younger person in a boat. The weather is that it's a sunny day, it looks like. And what are they doing? They're fishing. You got your second picture, and it looks like, it appears that the older person caught a what? Caught a fish, a very large fish. And how does it look like the character feels? Yeah, looks like he feels pretty happy, right? And then the last picture, this one, I feel like I'm not going to say exactly what I see going on in the picture, because there's a number of different interpretations that could happen in this one, and I don't want to sway your story. So I'll leave that one to your own creativity. But this should be a really fun version or way to express your own creativity. Like I said, whether you make it adventurous or dramatic or funny and humorous, you get to pick how you want to go about your story this week for those things. All right, moving on to page 115, the because clause. And I'm going to tell you that the because clause is one of my absolute favorite decorations or dress-ups in IEW. I love it. I just feel like I love it almost as much as I love a Who Witch clause, because it really adds. It makes it more interesting. Your sentences, it can make them more interesting, more detailed and descriptive. I just love it. So your future teachers will love it, and it really will enhance your writing. Let's read together at the top. The because clause is a clause or a group of words with a subject and a verb that begins with the word because. Even though a because clause has a subject and a verb, it is not a complete sentence. Adding the word because to a sentence makes it an incomplete thought. And let's look at the example. Because this was the last day of the contest. We're left wondering, where's the rest of it? They left because this was the last day of the contest. Because this was the last day of the contest, they worked really hard. Like, where's the rest? So, an entire because clause must be added to a sentence that is already complete. It may be added before or after the complete sentence. Let's look at the example in the box in the middle of the page. Joe and his uncle fished for hours because it was the last day of the contest. Or, because it was the last day of the contest, Joe and his uncle fished for hours. Now, I want you to notice something real quick before we move on. And as much as you can, I want you to remember when you have a because clause at the end of a sentence, like the first example in your box there where it says Joe and his uncle fished for hours because it was the last day of the contest, do you see a comma around the word because? No, it's not there, is it? Now look at the next one where the because clause opens the sentence. It starts the sentence. Because it was the last day of the contest, do you see it? A comma. When you start your sentence with a because clause, put a comma after it. Your teacher will try to help you remember this, but I want you to really hold on to that one on your own. Notice that the because clause helps add more detail to a sentence. It also helps explain why things are happening. Try to use a because clause in each paragraph you write in your fishing trip story. When you do, underline the word because, write CL in the right margin, and here's a sample. Bill and Joe headed for the lake because they had heard a giant fish had been spotted in it. They wanted to catch it. They've underlined the because clause, or because, and they've put CL off to the margin area. All right, so that is the because clause. If it opens a sentence, you follow it with a comma. If it comes later in the sentence, you don't have to do anything with a comma. I want you to turn your page and look at page 116. I want to remind you about making sure you got 2 to 3 keywords that are either repeated or reflected in your topic sentence and your clincher sentence of your writing. Of each paragraph in your writing. So each paragraph having the first sentence as the topic, the last sentence is the clincher. They each have those 2 to 3 key words that are repeated or reflected. I know I'm repeating this, but it's just so it really gets in your head. And you're going to make sure you highlight them in your writing for your teacher to recognize. Each paragraph, each one for each picture is going to have your dress ups, strong verb, ly word, quality adjective, who, which clause, and this week, a because clause. And then a sentence opener. You're going to work those into each paragraph as well. You're going to open one of your sentences with an ly word. And don't forget the very short sentences are always so fun and so easy to add. And they really give some variation to the writing, which is great. Decorations, they want you to use at least one per paragraph. And you can choose. You can do alliteration, you can do a simile. Remember that alliteration is when you repeat a sound, a beginning word sound. Like you can say the fast flying fish soared through the air. So that's alliteration. You can do a simile where you're using like or as, where you say the lake was as smooth as a dinner plate. I don't know why a dinner plate is what's coming to mind, but using like or as for a simile. You can do 3 short sentences, short staccato sentences, or you can do conversation and use some quotes. Make sure you've got one in at least each of your paragraphs, and make sure to underline it and label it to the right. No banned words, as always. Nothing saying go or went or say or said, etc. You lose points on those. So again, if you have any questions, you've got great teachers at home. You can always reach out to me if you would like. And I'm cheering y'all on. Have a wonderful week. And I can't wait to hear how you're doing with your writing on the fishing trip. Bye for now.